Welcome to another edition of Anthony T's Horror Show. I'm Anthony T. In this edition, the most talked about topic on the podcast is back. Wait for it. Jason Blum and Blumhouse Productions. As yes, they're up to no good once again. Literally. Don't get me wrong. I love Blumhouse Productions. And I don't like calling Blumhouse Productions out on things. Seriously. And this hurts me when I have to do one of these things. But the fact that they've obtained the copyrights to two of my favorite B-movies of the late 80s, early 90s, allegedly, has gotten me kind of not happy. Seriously. Because I really do not want to see these films remade, quite frankly. They are perfect the way they are. Seriously. We do not need remakes. We've already seen one of them been remade and it didn't turn out that great. So I do not need to see remakes of these two horror properties. But allegedly, Blumhouse Productions has gotten the copyrights to them. And of course, I went to YouTube to find out this information, which I never go to for news, but this was so egregious, plus the video and reporting looked good enough that yours truly has to have a comment or two on this subject. And I don't want to do this, seriously, but I got to. Because I don't want to see these horror properties remade in any shape or form. Maybe one of them, but not both of them. Seriously. Then, I was supposed to do the rankings of all the 7 Scream films that I teased last episode. But it did not happen because I went on a major rant on Scream 7. And why Scream 7 was a total failure. Seriously. I saw the movie in theaters and it was a total failure by Scream standards. As literally, I just teed off on this film. You'll get that in the main segment. Then in What's Anthony T Watching, I'm re-airing my Mutilator 2 segment because there were audio problems last episode. I fixed the audio problems, and you should be able to hear it clearly now instead of hearing it at a good volume, unlike last episode. So I'll re-air that review. But first, I have a quick news story to start things off. File this under good news, bad news. It may be good news if you're really looking forward to this. It may be bad news because it might be a little bit overkill due to its runtime. Seriously. Now, Bloody Disgusting recently posted an update on Andy Muschietti and his desire to do a supercut of it. Meaning he wants to put Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 together and make it into one super movie. Now, I say it might be a good thing or bad thing, because maybe some of you want a supercut of it, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 into one, and some of you might not because, well, the running time. Because the supercut running time would be about around the 5-hour mark for the two films. Seriously. And really, do we really need a 6.5-hour supercut of it? Literally. Now, I recently watched Ready or Not, Here I Come, and after seeing that movie, I kind of want a supercut of Ready or Not. Because both movies are like around 90 minutes or so it'd be like 3.5 hours. But we're talking about like 6.5 hours for 2 chapters, or 2 movies here. So, the thing is, I don't know if we really need a super cut of it, but Andy Muschietti really wants to do it. And there was some news about it, as it would add more footage to it. Now, I originally said 5 hours. It would add more footage to the point where it would be a 6-hour plus movie. That's right, a 6.5 hour super film. Come on, do we really need a 6.5-hour movie here, Andy? Literally? I don't need to see all the extra footage that wasn't in It or It Chapter 2. Literally. Who would want to sit there and see a 6-hour movie in one day? That's like a third of your day or a half of your day, pending how many hours you stay up. I'm not a fan about all these big, long movies. If you're going to do a super cut, I don't mind a 4-hour cut or a 3.5-hour cut. But a 6+ hour cut of 2 films rolled into one big film? I don't know. I just don't get the thinking here. Why do we need to have a massive director's cut of It? This film does not need a 6-hour director's cut. If you want to do that, why don't you also tack on the HBO Max series It, Welcome to Derry? Let's add more hours to this cut. Seriously. Andy, let's make it a 2.5-day film. You can go try to have the longest film ever. Of course, you probably have many directors on it. But still, this is just stupid. Seriously. Thankfully, there's some news about it. Well, the good news is that he hasn't had time to do it yet. Literally. But the thought of it is, he is so committed in doing a 6+ hour super cut of It. Please, Andy Muscateri, I plead to you, do not do this. I do not want to see a 6.5-hour movie. Literally. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of It is good enough. You don't need to add another hour to it. Literally. This isn't a mini-series. This is a feature film. We do not do 6.5-hour movies, people. Literally. I do not want to see a 6.5-hour super cut of It. Literally. Why? Watch it probably. But do we really need it? I don't need filmmakers going back and making these super cuts. I don't need it to have 10,000 cuts like Francis Ford Coppola has 10,000 cuts of Apocalypse Now. Or Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. I'm telling you. We do not need a super cut of It. It's long enough as is with 2 films. Adding another hour or so it's going to make it more worse. Seriously, man. Do not do it, Andy. Just stick to producing and creating Welcome to Derry Season 2 and 3. And I really hope you forget about this dream of doing a super cut of It. Because seriously, I don't think anyone wants to see a 6.5-hour movie. You're not Francis Ford Coppola or Ridley Scott, man. Don't do it. With that, that's the news.
Welcome to Dark Discussions, your place for the discussion of horror film, fiction, and all that's fantastic. A weekly podcast where the discussion is about the most recent horror and genre films. Intelligent talk on a genre that deserves intelligence. A conversation between co-hosts discussing not only the film, but also the connotation that the directors and screenwriters are trying to articulate. When you want more than a review, listen to Dark Discussions.
And speaking of perception, there's just one more scene I want to talk about, which is after Caleb discovers that Kyoto's a robot. Kyoto kind of peels off her skin, showing him what's underneath.
Now, wait a minute. I know where you're going with this, but tell me you weren't already thinking this 15 minutes earlier in the film. Exactly what he's thinking at that moment.
Which is he's a robot, too.
Oh, I considered the possibility.
Right, and that's what I like, is the fact that the writers are smart enough to know that this is what the audience would be thinking.
We've all seen Blade Runner.
Right, exactly.
www.darkdiscussions.com, wherever podcasts are found.
Welcome back. Now, recently, there's been a lot of rumors going around online, especially on YouTube, out of all places. Now, seriously, I don't take YouTube rumors seriously, quite frankly. As a matter of fact, I kind of disregard them, because literally, it's YouTube. 10 million things are on YouTube, literally. And you just don't know what's true, what's not, in this day and age of social media and everything. So, and YouTube is like one of those places where everything gets so distorted, so confusing. So I don't go for my news on YouTube, literally. Until a YouTube channel that I usually like to watch a lot is more like a physical media like channel. And now take this rumor as a grain of salt. Before I go into it, I am begging, yes, the most talked about topic on the podcast. Wait for it. Jason Blum! And Blumhouse Productions. Yep, it involves them. So they have to get their customary introduction out of the way so we can get to this alleged rumor that's going on with the Blumhouse production. And it's just something where I am pleading. Jason, don't do it. Please. Do not do it. I know you already took the first steps. But please, do not do this at all. I'm pleading you. Don't. It would make the world a better place if you don't do it. Please. I love these movies the way they were back in the 80s. And when I discovered them, when I was like in the 90s, early 2000s. And I had to keep these movies the way it was. Seriously. So Jason Blum, please do not do this, because these are two of my favorite B-movies from the great video store day era that I really do not want to see remade, quite frankly, literally. And there's rumors going around that you already have copyright to make remakes of these movies. Yes, I'm talking about the copyrights for Chopping Mall in Puppet Master. Since I got my pleading out of the way, we'll go back to the YouTube pot, which I began this introduction with. I usually don't find my news on YouTube, but a channel that I watch called Fanzine, which pretty much now spun off into the horror channel, dropped some major news that Blumhouse has copyrights for Chopping Mall and Puppet Master. Now, these are rumors. Now, first with Chopping Mall. Let's start with Chopping Mall here. Since this has been talked about for the last couple of years, about this film being remade, because director James Wan, who you may know from The Conjuring and Saw, has been actively talking about wanting to remake this film. So this has been going on for like 2023, that there were talks about remaking this film. There hasn't been any active official production on this film yet, but this is a film that James Wan has been wanting to remake, and it's been eager in wanting to remake this film. After previous attempt from the late Robert Hall and Dry County Entertainment failed to materialize, he's been wanting to remake this film. And now Blumhouse has the copyright for this film. Because I always thought this was a Lionsgate title. Seriously. I thought they had the rights to this film. They even put out a Blu-ray of this film. And when I saw the copyright for this film in that fanzine video, it had two companies listed, Blumhouse Productions and Shout Studios. The second part, Shout Studios, is surprising, because I always thought Lionsgate still had the rights to this film. They love to hold films hostage. So, I always assumed they had it, literally. Unless the rights expired and I didn't know about, which could have happened, then Shout Factory has the rights now for it. Hence, they can make a deal with Blumhouse. Now, in that video where I posted on the official Facebook page at Anthony T's Horror, the video in which I'm talking about this news story, it also has, during the copyrights of Chopping Mall, because he does show the copyrights directly from the copyrights website, that name unaffiliated role, one of those names is Jim Warnowski, the director of Chopping Mall, and Steve Mitchell, whom I'm not totally sure his role is, but I have no idea, but I know who Jim Warnowski is. He directed Chopping Mall. Does he have a say in this reboot? If Blumhouse chooses to make it. But I really don't want a reboot or remake of Chopping Mall. Seriously, it's good the way it is. Jason, leave the film alone. Please. I loved everything in its 80s glory with Barbara Crampton, Kelly Maroney. Leave it alone. Please. I don't want to see a reboot. Seriously, or anything. But maybe it could work. With technology so advanced now, maybe it could work. That's the only thing that's so funny about this reboot, even though I dislike it. It could possibly work. Because with the technology of the 80s compared to the technology of today, it's going to be more advanced. So you could probably make these things more darker, more vicious. You could do a lot of things with these killbots. So it could possibly work. But still, I don't want to see a reboot of it. Seriously. I'm a purist. I don't want to see a reboot. Seriously. There's only been a few films where I can say it was better than the original. So I don't want that. And given Blumhouse's track record of reboots lately, it looks like it appears they're going to strike out again. I don't want to see reboots from Blumhouse. Do original films, please. I know the Black Phone's based on a short story or something, but that was way better than what Blumhouse was putting out all of last year. Stick to original films that don't involve a killer pool. And let creative people work their magic. That's how you had some really good films from Christopher Lydon. Even though Drop was a failure. As a lot of those earlier Blumhouse films were really good. But lately they've been failing for the most part. Stick to the original films. Don't even try rebooting an 80s classic like Chopping Mall. Now let's move on to Puppet Master. I wanted to save this one for last because this was most recent. According to the Fanzine Horror Channel video, he discovered the copyright through the Copyright Office website that it was done recently. I would have thought Charles Band would have broke news that this happened. Seriously. But I guess not. This would be equivalent to the Toxic Avenger. And I wasn't really sure about the Toxic Avenger being remade. But that turned out to be a very good film. I loved it. It felt like a big budget trauma film. Quite frankly. And Lloyd, I think, was smart to give it to a director who understood the material. Instead of giving it to Jason Blum, no offense, Jason Blum, but you probably would water this down a lot. Where a Puppet Master, you don't need to water down a lot. As long as you don't do a PG-13 film, we're fine. I'm afraid Blumhouse Productions will do a PG-13 version of this film. Seriously. That's more likely to happen than Chopping Mall. Seriously. And that's what scares me about it. That Jason Blum would try and make a PG-13 film out of Puppet Master. Charles Band needs to at least have some input in this film. Please. I know he makes too many films with dolls, but he needs to have some input. Please. To make sure this is not at least a PG-13 film. Because it would not be good for the franchise as a whole and its legacy in the horror genre. Literally. Because that's another one that needs to be like a hot R type horror film. Or at least on the level of the original Puppet Master. Not like the recent reboot that Fangoria did before they got sold off to different owners. But this one kind of really shocked me. And this was basically new. Because they didn't recently file the copyrights for the new Puppet Master until early this year. So this is just out of nowhere. Literally. This could have been filed early first quarter of this year. That's how new it is. Literally. Maybe January, February. It's not like Chopping Mall where there's been rumors over the last couple of years of a remake. And they've had the rights to do a remake. But still, I would be surprised if any of those two get made. Most likely, probably Chopping Mall. I definitely can see Chopping Mall getting made. It has that following. Plus, James Wan has been wanting to do this film for a couple of years. But Puppet Master? This is just new, literally. It just doesn't have the cult following that Chopping Mall has. I don't know why Jason Blum and Blumhouse Productions think there's money to be made with Puppet Master. Unless they have a plan with it. Because I'm afraid at their hands, it's going to turn into another Five Nights at Freddy's. And that's what I don't want to see with the Puppet Master franchise. Turning all these dolls into some sort of PG-13 horror where you have kids involved. I don't want to see that in these Puppet Master films. Just making another Five Nights at Freddy's. Instead of a restaurant, we have the Borgata Bay Inn. I don't want to see that. Seriously. It would be bad if that turned into a Five Nights at Freddy's type series, because that's what I'm thinking. If I'm getting those thoughts, that scares me with Jason Blum having the Puppet Master franchise. Especially when he has Five Nights at Freddy's. And all of a sudden, maybe I can create my own Five Nights at Freddy's with another horror property. That's what scares me about him having Puppet Master. Because it may have that Five Nights at Freddy's feel to it. I don't want it. Seriously. It's not what the series is about. But anyway, Jason Blum always has to do something that irritates me or praises me to get on this podcast, because it's all I seem to talk about most of the time. And this is another example when you're getting rumors that 2 of your favorite B-movie films from the 80s that are possibly getting remade by Jason Blum, because now he has the rights to do those films if he wants to. So Jason Blum, I'm urging you. I know you have the rights to these films. Do not make these films. Please do not make these films. Seriously, man. I'm begging you. Do not remake Chopping Mall. Do not remake Puppet Master. If you're going to remake Chopping Mall, I could probably live with that, because I can actually see a way where that might turn out good. Puppet Master, right now, I don't see any way. As I feel like the only way I see it is another Five Nights at Freddy's type series. And that's not what I want with the Puppet Master series. Literally, man. Seriously. So, Jason, for the goodness of all horror fans that love the video store days, I know you probably have those properties, allegedly. Please, if you do not remake those properties. It would make us purists happy that we can relive those without the possible failure, and giving these classics a bad stain on the impact that they've had on horror fans throughout the years. Please, again, Jason, I'm imploring you. I hope you have second thoughts and not remake these films.
Every day there's a family struggling with hospital bills to care for their sick child who is fighting an illness. There's a woman who is fighting breast cancer and is having trouble making ends meet while paying for their treatment. And there are burn victims that are going through treatments to heal their deep wounds. There is a charity in the horror community that helps these people. Scares That Care is an organization that helps families deal with the bills for their child. They help women get the treatment they need to fight breast cancer, and they help people who are dealing with severe burns get the help they need to heal. Scares That Care is a 100% volunteer organization and 501c3 nonprofit charity that is dedicated to helping these people in fighting real monsters. To find out more information or to donate to Scares That Care, you can go to www.scaresthatcare.org. Every donation helps Scares That Care fight real monsters.
Welcome back. Scream 7 is a film that I recently checked out in theaters, and it was one of those films that I was really looking forward to. But there were some doubts that I had really going into it. And a lot of it had to do with the controversy, because there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this film, literally. As there's been people that love this film, there's people that didn't like this film. For me, this film was in the middle of both those spectrums. Seriously. Because there were some good in this film, and there were some really bad things in this film that I really did not like, that I really was not happy with. And I really cannot understand why this happened. Seriously. Literally. And this was a film I was so excited to see in the theaters when this first broke. That Neve Campbell was coming back to the franchise. Yes. I think we all know where we're going here with number 7. And it's a controversial one, people. Seriously. But I think the worst Scream film in the franchise is Scream 7. And not to say it's a 3-star film. It is a 3-star film. Like I said in the open, I have the worst films in the franchise are 3 stars. But when I compared that and my number 6, there were some things in the Scream 7 where I cannot forgive. Seriously. That really pushed it to the point where it had to be the worst film in the franchise. Literally. And it's just like it seemed like everything felt rushed. Now, before I get into the film to why this film really failed from the screenwriting and movie making process side of it, I cannot help to think one of the major reasons why this movie failed so miserably upon Scream standards, because I do hold these Scream films to a different kind of standards compared to other horror films from other horror franchise, was the fact that this film had behind the scenes drama from the start. Yes, remember when Paramount Pictures fired Melissa Barrera off of Scream 7 due to reasons which I will not get into here because this is not a political show. And if I get into those reasons, then I'm probably going to go off on some tangent that is not related to the podcast. So let's just leave it at that for reasons, because I'll get off topic way quickly. So that threw a wrench into Scream 7 plans right away. So bad that they had to hire Kevin Williamson back to write and direct this film, alongside Guy Busick to co-write. And they had to bring back Neve Campbell and pay her a lot of money to come back to the franchise, which is a good thing. She deserves the money, seriously. After all these years playing this character, she deserves a big payday because she's the star of the franchise. The fact that they didn't want to pay her, I think, got us into this mess in the first place. Literally. That she didn't appear in Scream 6. And now they decided they really needed to pay her the money to get her to be in Scream 7. So there was a lot behind the scenes drama before we even got to production in this film. Seriously. Then you had to do a quick script that cost over $500,000 because you already had a script for Scream 7 that you couldn't use. So all this behind the scenes chaos really affected this film. Literally. I'm kind of surprised it's a 3-star film given the fact that this film had all this chaos before we got to the finished product. As for the finished product, I really thought it was very uneven. Seriously. Literally. Now, should I talk about the screenplay first? Or should I talk about the film? Let's talk about the film first, because I really kind of want to talk about the film, because literally, I do want to save my deepest criticism for this film towards the end of this segment, because I really do want to dive into that third act of this film, literally. And I think that I need to save for the end of this segment anyway. There was some things that I really liked about this film, and there were some things where I just so hated about this film. Let's start with the positives. I thought the kill scenes in this film were very creative in this film. I'll even go as far to say they are probably some of the most creative scenes in the entire franchise. Because there's a couple of them, including that opening scene, where it was just like, oh, yeah, I've never seen that in a Scream film before. Or there's another scene in the film where, oh, that I haven't seen in a Scream film before. Or that. So, I like the fact that they took the time to make some very bloody death scenes in this film and be creative with them, because the death scenes in the last film I think were kind of not there, very basic, but there were a lot of creativity to these death scenes in this film, where if you love slasher films, you will love the death scenes in this film, literally. If you're just there to see death scenes, it's a perfect film for you, literally. As I'll go as far to say that Scream 7 is probably the bloodiest Scream film out of all the Scream films in the franchise, literally. And I've seen all of them. So, this is probably the bloodiest. Another thing that I really liked about this film, it does a really good job with the acting in this film. I thought Neve Campbell was great in this film. Courtney Cox was also very good in this film. I also thought Isabella May was very good here as the daughters and might be the perfect person to take over the series if Neve Campbell does not want to do another Scream film after this film. I could see no problem having the series focus around her. I thought Jasmine Savoy Brown and Mason Gooding were very good in their small roles. I wish they were given more to do in this film. I also really like Joe McHale here, which is surprising. But then again, he kind of surprises me in these types of roles. He actually made Becky watchable until Kevin James ruined the film for me. Remember that film, Becky? With Kevin James. Yeah, that one. Where for the first 30 minutes where Lulu Wilson and Joe McHale were on screen together, that was a very good film. Until it just became bad, mostly because of Kevin James' presence. Because sometimes a presence can ruin a film. And Kevin James kind of ruined that film. Seriously. So, but anyway, Joe McHale's a good actor in comedy, drama. He can do anything. As he does a good job here playing Sydney's husband. The acting wasn't bad. Mackenzie Grace was good. That wasn't a problem with this film. Another thing that I really liked about this film was the fact that this film does a really good job focusing on the mother-daughter relationship throughout the entire film. As it really does a good job focusing both on Sydney and Tatum the entire film. And their relationship and Sydney's struggles to raise a child, given all the trauma she's been through throughout the years. That was actually good. That whole subplot. This is when this film goes off the rails. And there's a couple reasons why I think this film goes off the rails. First, you don't care anything about any of these new characters. Seriously. All of these new characters in this film could have been background characters for all I care. Seriously. That's what they felt like. Background characters. You don't get much development from them. You don't see them together as much. And that was, I think, the problem with this whole Sydney mother-daughter relationship. It's a good subplot line, but it really took a lot of the new characters in this film. Because you don't get to see them as much. Seriously. It's like they're expendable characters. Literally. There's no surprise or suspense when you have characters that just show up 1 minute, then disappear for a while. It's like, this film had way too many characters. Seriously. It must have, because literally, you're seeing all these new characters literally are given nothing to do here. Literally nothing to do. When you have that happen, you can't tell who might have motive. You don't even care who's the killer in this film. Seriously, literally. It could be any of these characters because you don't see them for what it felt like 3 minutes every 20 minutes or so. They were like disappear for a while. Literally! You cannot do that! If you're doing a murder mystery! Seriously! Have these characters disappear for a long time! That's what it felt like in this film! With all these new characters! They all disappeared! With the exception of Sydney's daughter, they all literally disappeared from this film! That's not how you run a murder mystery! Let alone a horror film where you have a murderer going around and you don't know who the murderer is. Seriously! That's not how you write characters in a mystery novel or a mystery film. by having him mysteriously disappear for 20 to 30 minutes. That you forget about them. I don't get it. Seriously. This is Kevin Williamson and Guy Busick running this film. Why am I getting crappy characters? Oh, want to stop there? Let's go to the Ghostface reveals. They are two of the stupidest in the history of this franchise. One of them only appeared in one scene, it felt like. Come on! Seriously! And the other had the stupidest reason in all of this franchise. Seriously! Literally! I read a book. You made me want to become a killer. What the I almost said it, because this is how infuriated I was with this reveal. Seriously. I just don't get why we cannot have characters in this film. In all the other films, they were all together. This film, not so much. It felt like, to me, that we got a film that just focused on Sydney, her husband, her daughter, her trauma, all the fake AI stuff, and that's it. And, of course, some great kills, and some bloody moments, because literally, that third act was literally one of the worst third acts I have seen in quite some time. But there was a few positives to this third act. Because at least it had a couple of positives. First, I loved the beginning of the third act. We had Laurie Metcalf, Scott Foley, David Arquette, Matthew Lillard all coming back in deep fake AI. That I thought was a very good scene to start the third act. Then it went downhill from there, because the only other thing that I liked about the third act was a 20-second clip of Turnstile's "Look Out For Me." Because right now, you're going to look out for me, because this is a rant. Because right now, this is like Turnstile's "Look Out For Me." Because I am so pissed off about this third act of this film that really brought this film down. You know, if you can add the Einstein Kill song at the end credits, those are the only three things I liked about the third act. Seriously. It was horrible. It was such a horrible third act. It's the worst third act in this franchise by far. Seriously. I don't know how they came up with this third act. Seriously. At the Evans house. Because literally, it had a good beginning. Then it just went downhill when the reveal happened. Seriously. I just don't get it. Seriously. But then again, this is what happens when you do not focus on characters. When you make characters disappear for lengthy amount of time. You get some BS reason to their logic to why they're doing these killings. It goes the same for mystery films as well. You don't see mystery films pull off stunts like this where characters disappear at length. And not one or two, but multiple characters. And just let's focus on 3 characters, 4 characters. That's all. I don't get it. Seriously. I don't know what's going on, David Ellison. Seriously, why you greenlit this script? Why you had to rush this script into production? Because part of this is on you, David Ellison. And your crappy Skydance Productions. And yes, I can blame David Ellison for this mess as well, because he's the one who greenlit this crap. instead of maybe waiting another year, which I would have waited another year for a good film, he had to rush out this piece of crap because he had to get another Scream film as soon as possible. If this is going to be the way that David Ellison runs things at Paramount and WB when Paramount gets Warner Brothers, then half of the movie business is probably screwed. Because he doesn't seem to care about quality. Because he was rushing to get this film into production as soon as possible. I can't wait to see what he does when he gets a hold of really big time properties like Superman and Batman. Let's see how he can ruin them, as he's starting to ruin the Scream franchise now. Anyways, I don't know why this film had to be such a disaster. Really. One of the most important things to the Scream franchise is its characters. And there was none of that here in this film. For the first time. Even Scream 3, which I thought was also a 3-star film, at least it didn't have its characters disappearing for lengths of time. And it also had the shock value too, at times. So, literally, this is a major disaster here. I blame Kevin Williamson, I blame Guy Busick, I blame David Ellison for putting this disaster of a film on the big screen. And the other reason why this film gets 3 stars is the film has some really good kills in this film. The film has a really good main relationship. The acting is good. Everything else sucked. Really, it sucked. I even give Scream 3 3 stars. Even though I didn't like the way it was predictable. It felt too different from the other 2 films. But at least that film had its characters not disappearing for good chunks of the film. Like this one, for example. Anyway, I hope Scream goes back to the basics of what makes this franchise a great franchise. Because seriously, this film really is the worst entry in this franchise. It just is. Seriously. When you look at the screenplay in this film, you can't help it. Noticing all these characters disappearing, then reappearing later, or disappearing never to be heard from again. It's like, I don't get it. Seriously. I just hope Scream 8 is a better film than Scream 7. Really. I'm just hoping gets back to that high standard of Scream films that I'm accustomed to seeing instead of Scream 7. If you want to find out the latest news for Anthony T's Horror and Wrestling Show, you can follow the podcast on the Slasher app, Facebook, and Instagram at Anthony T's Horror and Wrestling. You can also listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, DocDiscussions.com, and the Film Arcade Media YouTube channel at youtube.com/FilmArcadeMedia. What's Anthony T watching this episode? Well, I told you in the beginning of the film that I would be watching a sequel to a cult classic. I also might have mentioned it was a sequel to a film that came out in the 80s. And it has a very good following. And now in 2025, we get a sequel to that film. And the sequel is not what you think. Seriously. As this sequel goes in a completely different direction. Like, to the point where it feels drastically different. Yes, I am talking about The Mutilator 2. And yes, I've been wanting to see Buddy Cooper do another film for quite a while. And I never thought I would ever get to see that chance because The Mutilator, I think, was his only film before this film. And this is a sequel that is vastly different to the point where it really feels like it's more... Actually, you have a few of the original stars of The Mutilator playing themselves in this film pretty much. Now, this is a film that stars Terry Kaiser. You may know him for Weekend in Bernie's 2. You may also know him from Friday the 13th, I believe Part 7, The New Blood. And most recently, been in the Ice 9 Kills videos, A Work of Art, The Great Unknown, and The Laugh Track. So he's pretty much building a horror resume. Film also features appearances from Damien Melfi as well. He's been in such films as The Strangers, Pray at Night, Stream, and Haunt. So this was something I've been wanting to see literally ever since this film came out on the film festival circuit. As this took a while for it to come out, but we are here with The Mutilator 2. Now here is the synopsis for the film. It was supposed to be a sequel to the cult hit slasher The Mutilator, but instead it turned into a reunion of terror. Terry Kaiser stars in this blood-soaked horror that shows how far some might go to make a killing at the box office. That's right, we are getting a commentary on filmmaking in this film. That's why I said in the beginning, this is vastly different from the first film. And I don't mind this. Seriously. I know people who saw the first Mutilator who may have never heard of it until me talking about it are going to themselves, WTF? Seriously? Why is Buddy Cooper going in this direction instead of going the traditional way and continuing from the first film? It goes to what I keep saying, that earlier on in the show, I respect filmmakers who try to do original films, especially with franchises. Seriously, I'd rather see a film from a director that has a unique idea than one of those stupid films out of the public domain. And this is why I think about Buddy Cooper in trying this way, because it's vastly different. Seriously, it caught me way off guard when I saw the trailer for it, because I was expecting totally something different. But okay, I'm on the go along because I support filmmakers that are taking major risks. And this is taking a major risk. If you're a fan of the first film, this is a major risk. Too much so that this is not being released by a major company. You would have thought this film probably would get a release from some well-known indie film distributor. But no, it's not happening. Probably because it's not what The Mutilator was. And doesn't continue the story from the first film. Or set it with a new set of characters. Instead, it goes in this vastly different direction. So, what did I think of the film? I have to say, I was really kind of surprised with this film, quite frankly, literally. Because going into Mutilator 2, I was expecting another slasher-type film. Like the first one, literally. As, to me, the trailer felt like it was going to be like the first one. But this, for some weird reason, did not feel like the first one. And I am not knocking the film because of this. In fact, I think this is well executed. The fact that this film, I think, really plays more like a commentary on remakes, fandom, online vloggers, and filmmaking as a whole. Amidst all the horror and gore, of course. But still, you can see there are commentaries on those subjects in this film. And how a lot of it's changed from the 80s to today, literally. But Buddy Cooper really does a good job with the screenplay here. As I think he makes sure that he creates two sets of stories here. You got the cast and crew of the remake, and you also got in this other story some of the original people from the first film, as well as Terry Kaiser playing Jack Chatham, who was an actor on the original film of The Mutilator. So I really thought Cooper really did a good job with the way he handles those scenes. He keeps this film moving along through the dialogue. It made the characters interesting. But literally, I think what really makes this film, in my opinion, are the kill scenes in this film. As this film does have a story, don't get me wrong, but this film really has some really good kill scenes, some really good special effects by Joe Castro here, as he really does a great job with the way he creates the effects for the death scenes, as they are really good. I thought they come off as very bloody, which is a really good thing, because given the fact that this film feels kind of meta on all this remake and all this filmmaking stuff, it's good to know that at least the action in this film is very good. And Cooper does a very good job directing the action as well, as the death scenes really were intense, including a couple that really were just downright horrifying. And it just worked so well with him and his special effects coordinator, Joe Castro. Both of them really do a really good job in making sure the kill scenes stand out in this film. Because literally, it needed to stand out in this film, because if you're not someone like me who gets all of this stuff about filmmaking and all this stuff about online vlogging and the commentaries behind this, then you're not gonna get this film, literally. So you're gonna need the death scenes to really stand out in this film. And I have to say, it was a very ballsy move by Buddy Cooper to go this route with The Mutilator 2, because he could have easily just made another copy of The Mutilator, but instead wanted to lend his voice on the current state of filmmaking as a whole, which is a very interesting choice. But for the most part, it works out very well. If there's one problem I had with this film, I felt like the ending felt too flat. I felt like the detective character played by Damian Melfi was too smart in finding the killer out very quickly. Even though I probably got a sense who the killer was in this film very quickly once the killing started. But that ending just felt flat and anticlimactic. I wish it had a climactic ending, as it would probably have made it better. But literally, I enjoyed this film. I have to say, this is not what I was expecting when I signed up for this film. I was expecting another straight-up slasher film. But instead, this feels like more of a commentary on the whole filmmaking process and what goes on in today's culture in the film world. And for that, I really kind of respect Buddy Cooper for going out on a limb here, where he could just phoned it in or made a copy of his original film, but he didn't. And that's what I think makes The Mutilator a very good film. I know this film may not be for everyone because it's too focused on all these filmmaking cliches and the state of filmmaking itself. But if you stay for the kill scenes, you will enjoy this film, as the kill scenes were definitely top notch, and it really helps make this film, even though this film has a weak ending, which I really did not like. But overall, I liked 95-98% of this film, so I'm probably going to give it 4 stars, as pretty much everything was good until the end, where the police detective was just too smart of a character, which you do not see in horror films. Maybe that's what was Cooper's intent all along, just to make him smart, because you don't see that in horror films. Seriously, you don't see smart detectives in horror films. With that, I'm giving The Mutilator 4 stars. Well, that wraps up another edition of Auntie T's Horror Show. If you like this episode, you can go back and listen to past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, other podcast providers. You can also follow social media at Auntie T's Horror Show on Facebook, Instagram, and the Slasher app. With that, I want to thank you for listening to this episode. Have a good day and support indie horror. This has been a Film Arcade Media production.